Back with you here on Tip Off, and we were going to talk about the Newcastle High girls basketball program. And Larry Kelly, last year, the girls, they finished 5-11, and we're going to advance to the playoffs last year. However, it got stripped away from them by COVID. Quaker Valley was going to be the opponent. If everybody remembers, Newcastle played Ambridge in a section game down the stretch, so they had to play it. And Ambridge ended up testing positive with COVID, and it was a trickle-down effect. Ambridge had to forfeit. I don't know if Ambridge actually went to the playoffs. They were pretty bad last year in terms of the record. They might have just opted out anyways. But it cost Newcastle a playoff berth. And then Shenango played Ambridge on a Saturday afternoon in a non-section game, and that cost Shenango also a postseason matchup as well, all because of Ambridge. But in any event, Newcastle 5-11 last year, Larry, officially a playoff season. So you're up there every so often at practice when you're not signing autographs and kissing babies and shaking hands and things like that, or going out to Shenango and seeing Bob Natal. So what do you see at Newcastle's practice?
Hey, Newcastle women's basketball is coming back, and it's on the rise. And I watched them scrimmage Farrell on Saturday, and we really look good. This will be, I think, the best women's team that Kara Joseph has had since she's been there. Mm-hmm. And I think Kara has been there about 5 years. And, you know, she took over a program that was really, really struggling. I mean, the first year that she had that program, there were literally young women who had a hard time dribbling the basketball up the court. But she's worked hard. She's coached them hard. Her sister's helping her. And they got this program going in the right direction. Again, watching their scrimmage against Farrell, I thought that it was the best Newcastle team that I've seen since Kara has been there. And so I'm excited about women's basketball this year for Newcastle High School.
Ralph Blundo coaches the boys. He's obviously a Newcastle graduate. Kara DiNardo Joseph is also a Newcastle High graduate. Tell me the importance of having a coach that's a graduate of that school, understanding the culture, you know, so they're that much ahead of the curve, so they can, pass that on to their players. How beneficial that is.
Well, I think you just said that. To coach at Newcastle, you have to understand the community. You have to understand the students. You have to understand, I believe, what makes them tick. You have to understand what motivates them. And having grown up in the program, as Kara did, and she played on some great teams, mm-hmm. She gets it. She understands it. She knows what it takes to win championships, as she was on championship teams. She understands what makes these young women tick. She understands what motivates them. She understands the community, probably knows the families of her players. And I think that's imperative in coaching, and especially at Newcastle.
Yeah. Last year, because of COVID, there was a lot of opt-outs. She said that she's getting those players back. They lost Mia Graham to graduation. Mia was such a contributor to the program, did a lot of great things. Last year, they had one game in particular that they literally played with only 5 girls. Nobody on the bench aside from the coaches, just 5 girls. That was a 63-55 win over Montour, if I have my games right. And in that game, Ayani Hudson had 38 points. So we know she's a player. She brings a lot of skill to that team, and she's coming back.
Ayani is not just a player. She's a special player. Mm-hmm. And I look for her to do special things this year. You know, she will be the leader of that team, but she'll need help because, you know, good coaches aren't going to let just one player beat them. But they're going to have a hard time game planning to keep Ayana Hudson in check because she can score outside, she can score inside, she can score in transition, she can rebound. She's a special player, and I think she's just one of the reasons that Newcastle is going to be good this year and have a really good season. And she has help. Again, watching the scrimmage against Farrell, I really, really liked what I saw.
Yeah. How difficult is that, Larry? Put that into words. Obviously, you're a boy. You coached in the boys system, and we're talking the girls. And they had 5 girls for a game last year. And no substitutions or anything like that. It's got to be difficult. The other team can freely substitute. Anybody gets gassed or winded, what have you. They're substituting. It's just not normal. And they got the win, and it was it was a home game, but regardless, 5 girls. That's impressive.
Well, that's very difficult, almost impossible. Somebody gets in foul trouble. Young players get winded. They need a break from time to time. But what made last year even more difficult, not just playing a game with 5 players, but not having enough players dressed to have meaningful practice sessions.
Right.
It's hard. It's hard to do what you need to do if you only have 5, 6, 7, 8 girls in uniform. Mm-hmm. I mean, you need to practice, and you need to practice at game speed, and you need to practice 5-on-5, and you need to do those types of things, so that you're ready to play the game. So, COVID not only affected what happened in the game, but it affected what happened in practice. And that's probably, if you were to ask Kara, of all of the things that COVID did that affected her season, that's probably the number one thing that she would have told you.
Yeah, and talking about gradual building blocks from last year, I think possibly after the opt-outs and things like that, they were down to maybe 7 or 8 girls, 9 give or take. This year, while Kara said that it's not where they want to be in terms of numbers, they are up to 12. So that makes things a lot easier with practice and getting things done. And she likes the numbers that she's got in her lower levels, like junior high and middle school. She says that there's interest there. The girls are very eager to learn. And that bodes well for the future of the Newcastle girls basketball.
Oh, absolutely. And coaching the junior high team this year was Brian Rice. And Brian's a member of the boys coaching staff. And that's a big, big, valuable asset to have at the junior high level. Brian was a great player at Newcastle. He actually played a year after he came back from the Navy at Geneva. He was a 43-year-old freshman, and he understands the game implicitly. He is motivating. He excites the players. They want to play for him. He understands the game. So to have that kind of a coach in your junior high level is really, really a big advantage, and it will pay dividends for the Newcastle women's program moving forward.
Yeah, and I believe she said there was a couple girls, I don't know how many, that came up from the 8th grade team. And one thing that she mentioned is, Ron, we don't have a 9th grade team like the boys do, or like any school has a boys 9th grade team. So those young ladies, automatically go into the JV part of it. But when you only have 12, how many JV games do you get? And she said they are going to try to play some JV games, but basically those young girls are going to be right into the mix in varsity at such a young age. So talk about the differences there. The kids that you coach on the boys team, they have that experience playing against 9th graders. These girls, they're going to really cut their teeth, early against older girls, bigger girls.
It's important for them to play as many JV games as possible, because especially in basketball, there is no substitute for playing games. No substitute for that. And you have an 8th grade girl who's now in 9th grade. Unless she's a really special player, she's probably not going to get very many varsity minutes. So to get the experience she needs to develop as a player, she needs JV game action.
Right.
And so hopefully they'll be able to play as many JV games as they can get scheduled. It's important. The game of basketball is a game that has to be played to really get good at it. You got to play it, and that's one advantage that the boys program has, is we have a 9th grade team, because not everybody is good enough to go from 8th grade and play varsity basketball. Very few are really good enough to do that, because you're still a young man. You're almost a child, and you're playing against men, and that's hard to do physically.
Yeah. What makes this a successful season for the Newcastle girls, Larry? And conversely, what would make this not such a successful season for the girls if something happened either way?
Well, I think the key is to continue to develop their program. This program is getting better. I can see it. I was there when it started under Kara, and I'm telling you, I can see the difference in the talent level that's on the court. Ronnie, it's all about players, and it's all about talent. And we have now the depth in the women's program, that's going to allow them to be successful moving forward. So I would think that a playoff team this year, and I mean a real playoff team, not one where they let everybody in. A real playoff team this year is what they're looking for. And I think if you were to ask Kara, she would be somewhat disappointed if that didn't occur this year.
Right. Okay, Larry, Ayani Hudson, as I mentioned, had 38 last year. That was her career high. She averaged somewhere close to, I think, 18 or 19 points a game. So they're going to really lean on her this year. Again, Nina Flora is back as well, and Kara is going to look for leadership from her as well. Anything else you'd like to say on the Newcastle High girls basketball program?
I'm excited to watch them. I really believe that they now have the talent infusion in the women's program that's going to allow them to compete with the very best in their section. And they're in a tough section. And it's going to allow them to compete for a playoff spot. And I think they'll accomplish that this year based on what I've seen at practice. And as I said, I watched the scrimmage against Farrell on Saturday, and they looked really, really good.
Okay. All right. He's Larry Kelly. I'm Ron Poniewasz. We thank you for joining us for our look at Newcastle boys and girls basketball in our Red Hurricane report. Stay tuned to tip off prior to the season, as we likely will be back to possibly preview the other teams around the county. And then certainly once the season starts, we will be back here with you on a weekly basis, sort of like Gridiron, with our athlete of the week, a topic, maybe go over the schedule of what's to come for our teams. But as of right now, that's what we have. We really like the boys program to do very good things, very great things, actually. Playoffs, district championship, who knows, maybe even a state title if everything, goes their way. And the girls program, it sounds like it's going to be a great season for the girls as well. Big things to come. Again, thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you around the gyms around the county.
When I became an attorney, I chose to stay here because my friends and neighbors needed a lawyer they can count on. I believe that if you're hurt on the job, you shouldn't have to go it alone, especially if your employer or the insurance company tries to bully you. You can count on me to get you the workers' compensation benefits that you deserve. Even if it gets rough, I'm not going anywhere. I'll stand my ground right here where I've always been. I'm Larry Kelly, and I'm a Newcastle guy.